So this guy said some really dumb things about Damian Lillard, and I'm going to react to it. Now, this video, I'm not really going to edit, so we'll just see how this goes. It should be a short, quick video, but I'm just going to react to this guy. Now, I have not heard what he said from the video. I have read snippets of what he said, so I'm interested to see him say it, to actually hear him say it. And then I'm going to break it down, and based on what I read, this dude is just going to go on a ridiculous tangent, and I'm just going to clown him for it because, yeah, you'll see why if you haven't seen it yet, so let's get into it.
If what we've experienced as a group of people over the last 3 months has taught us anything, that there is no such thing as meaningless anymore. Like, we can't take things for granted anymore. And there's a difference between have to and get to. And Dame Lillard would have the opportunity to get to play basketball again, because there's people out there that have to go do things. Frontline workers and nurses and doctors, they have to go to work. And they have to work more hours and get paid less because of what we're dealing with.
See, this is where I really have a problem with what this guy's saying. So apparently, because Damian Lillard has the opportunity to go play, 5 games of basketball that are meaningless in the long term, he should have to play it because there are people out there who work in the healthcare industry, who have to take care of people, who have to work long hours. Because of them, Damian Lillard has to play basketball. Can anybody tell me how that makes any sort of sense? How does people being taken care of in the hospital equal Damian Lillard has to play basketball even if the games are meaningless in the long run, even if it's just 5 games? How does that make any sense? It's just two things that are just completely different things that don't tie together, that he's trying to use to say that Damian Lillard should play basketball just because he has the opportunity to play 5 games. I don't get it, man.
Have to go to work, and they have to work more hours and get paid less because of what we're dealing with. Moms have to go to work and be teachers and be mothers. They have to go do that. Kids at the grocery store. I went shopping yesterday at Stu Leonard's here in Westport. There's 16-year-old cashiers that have to go to work, so people...
What does that have to do with Damian Lillard playing a game? Honestly, what does that have to do with any of this? Is this a sports show or is this CNN?
That have to go to work, so people like myself can go buy food. Dame Lillard would have the opportunity to get to play basketball again. And I would hope and challenge him in his mindset that the last few months...
This guy's just sitting here like... I don't even know if he's actually listening to what this guy's saying, but I just thought this guy was funny right here.
Again. And I would hope and challenge him in his mindset that the last few months has changed that, and that he would take the opportunity to go and perform and go and compete and get the opportunity to go perform, and that he...
I was too worried about that guy. Let me re-listen to this.
Said that the last few months has changed that, and that he would take the opportunity
the last few months have changed what?
Buy food. Dame Lillard would have the opportunity to get to play basketball again, and I would hope and challenge him in his mindset that the last few months has changed that, and that he would...
Has changed what? I'm literally so confused as to like what this dude is saying right now.
In Westport.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out.
Cashiers that have to go to work so people like myself can go buy food. Dame Lillard would have the opportunity to get to play basketball again. And I would hope and challenge him in his mindset that the last few months has changed that. And
the last few months has changed his mindset? I don't understand what he's tried to say. The last few months has changed what specifically? See, this is the problem that I have with a lot of these guys on these talk shows, is it's almost like they ramble to a point where they lose track of what they're saying, but then they still pretend to know what they're talking about. Like, if I'm live, there are times where I'll go on a tangent and I'll kind of lose my train of thought, but I won't hide the fact that I lose my train of thought. I'll admit it. You know, maybe that's why I'm an amateur YouTuber and these guys are on the big screen, you know, but honestly, like, if this guy talking right now wasn't a backup quarterback for 12 years in the NFL, he wouldn't be on the show right now. So I don't know, man. It's just people have to go to work, and Damian Lillard with this mindset, I hope the last 3 months have changed that. Well, the last 3 months, his mindset is basically made up off of the last 3 months, because the only reason this season is in this position is because of the last 3 months. So it's not really, I don't really know what he's trying to say. I'm just going to move on at this point.
That he would take the opportunity to go and perform and go and compete and get the opportunity to play basketball again. Because
compete for nothing, though. That's the problem. You don't got an opportunity at the playoffs when you should have had an opportunity for the playoffs, given the position the Portland Trailblazers were in. So if you're stripped of that opportunity, you're basically being stripped of what you compete for. So he's saying, oh, he needs to go out there and compete. Well, what he was competing for was a playoff berth. And if that gets stripped away from him and he's still made to go down to Orlando, sit in a bubble, and compete for nothing, that's not really a competitive thing. That's not a competitive solution. That's more of a, okay, go down there, play 5 games so you get your paycheck and then go home. So that's not competition. There's no competitive integrity in that.
Opportunity to go and perform and go and compete and get the opportunity to play basketball again, because some people don't have a choice anymore. They have to go do things. It is not an option. And so while I think Doris and Dom bring up some great points, I struggle with sitting there going, how can you sit there and go, nope, I'm not going to play, but understand that there's people out there that don't have that choice?
Because it's basketball. Like, I don't know what I don't know how this guy's mind is made up where basketball equals being a doctor or being a nurse or being an essential worker. Okay? Like, I hope that Damian Lillard would go play basketball because other people have to go do their jobs. It's basketball. It's basketball. It's not the same, man. Like there's no more analysis or breakdown I could put upon these quotes other than basketball doesn't equal all these other jobs that he's bringing up right now, saying people have to go do those jobs.
Struggle with sitting there going, how can you sit there and go, nope, I'm not going to play, but understand that there's people out there that don't have that choice, that they have to go to work and they have to go earn their money. I struggle with sitting here and going, you don't come off as a in some way a spoiled and entitled brat by saying I'm not going to play.
See that's the quote that I read. Like, this guy was a backup quarterback in the NFL. Now he's on this talk show. I don't know if he knows Damian Lillard's background, but he probably should have done his research before talking on him like this. If you're going to call somebody spoiled and entitled, at least try and know who the hell you're talking about, because if he actually did his research, I don't think he would dare call Damian Lillard spoiled and entitled. And if he did his research and then still had the nerve to call Damian Lillard spoiled and entitled, then this guy should be fired from his job, because that's just the most idiotic take in the history of sports talk television. Because this dude's from Oakland, Dan. Where are you from, man? Like, this dude's from Oakland. This dude had to grind. This dude had to shoot on milk crates. This dude had to work his way from the bottom. Even when he got into college, he wasn't a heralded recruit. He wasn't entitled to, just a 5-star scholarship because he was 6'10" with amazing athletic ability and, or an Andrew Wiggins. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys that come through and just are kind of like lucky in terms of their basketball development, if that makes sense. Like, they're lucky, they're a 5-star recruit, just based off natural raw talent. Not saying they work hard, but they don't really have to grind for it. So like an Andrew Wiggins is a perfect example. And you look at him in the NBA, he hasn't really grinded in the NBA because he's never really grinded at all in his life, in my opinion. He's just not like a hard worker. He's just an insane natural talent that doesn't have the work ethic to put it all together. So you have these guys that do come through college basketball. They'll go to Kentucky, they'll go to Kansas, they'll go to Duke, and they're just, they're they might have a sense of entitlement. They might be a bit spoiled. They're a bit lucky. Damian Lillard is the opposite of that. Went to Weber State, worked his ass off to develop himself as a player, worked his ass off to get himself in a position to be drafted, to make a max contract, which he gives back to his family, gives back to the community. Like, he gives back as much as pretty much any NBA athlete. A lot of it is him taking care of his family. A lot of it is him giving back to the community. He's a very community-oriented guy. So to sit here and call him spoiled and entitled is absolutely ridiculous. He's not like one of these guys that, gets to just walk their way into the NBA almost, walk their way into easy opportunities, then they get a huge paycheck and, aren't really doing anything for the community. Okay, if that was Damian Lillard's background, and then Damian Lillard was saying this, I still wouldn't agree with his take, but at least it wouldn't be as absurd. But given Damian Lillard's entire storyline, for this Dan Orlovsky guy to be saying this, just absolutely ridiculous.
It's spoiled and entitled brat by saying, I'm not going to play.
Why is he still nodding?
Go ahead, Nick. Yeah, I think it's kind of an absurd analogy because...
I said absurd, he said absurd. I haven't watched this, man. Yeah, he knows. He knows. This guy knows, so I'm gonna let him back me up right here.
I think it's kind of an absurd analogy because the people that have to do it is because they have to do it like we have to eat. No one has to play basketball. We don't have to watch basketball. So I'm not even going to dive into that necessarily. I think what Dame is doing in this situation is...
Why is Dan confused, man? Why is Dan confused by that? What? People have to go to work. You don't have to play basketball. Why is Dan confused by that? Why is that such a hard to understand topic for Dan?
We have to do it like we have to eat. No one has to play basketball. We don't have to watch basketball. So I'm not even going to dive into that necessarily. I think what Dame is doing in this situation is fine. He's going to show up. If I were him, I wouldn't even show up. Why go there? To Doris's point, there's no point in exposing yourself to this risk if you don't even have a chance. Like, what are you playing for? What are you exposing yourself and your family to this virus if you don't have any reason to play? So, I understand your point. It's terrible that some people have no choice in this matter, but that doesn't mean Dame Lillard has to play basketball. It's an odd leap to say someone has to go deliver our packages, so Dame Lillard, you better play basketball. It just doesn't seem to connect to me necessarily. I like what he's doing because he's defending the people that he cares about and that care about him and that rely on him, his teammates.
Then say that, Dom. Then say that. If Dame Lillard had come out and said, I don't want to expose myself, or I don't want to, I don't want to expose potentially bringing this to my family, that's a different conversation. But all he's saying is, I don't want to play because I don't have a chance to win a championship. And
well, it's implied. You think he would be not playing if they were out of the playoffs? No, he'd still be playing. He'd still finish what he started, the season. You don't want to return 4 months after. There's been 4 months off, right? You're going to come back, sit in a bubble, possibly be exposed to the coronavirus, to play 5 meaningless games. He doesn't want to play those 5 meaningless games. The reasoning that I laid out before that is implied, Like, if he had 5 games left in a normal season, he'd probably be playing. But it's 5 games that don't mean anything after a 4-month layoff in the middle of a pandemic. Like, that's implied. He doesn't need to come out and say all that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's ridiculous how, like, these athletes need to spell things out for these media guys or they'll run with it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to try and explain yourself so perfectly with perfect context, or else people like Dan will say, well, he didn't say that, that it was partly due to the pandemic and, the season restarting, so it's just because he doesn't want to compete because he doesn't have a chance at the playoffs. It's just, oh, God, man. These media guys piss me off. That's why I don't watch shows like this.
Care about him and that rely on him, his team.
That's why I don't watch stuff like this. Because you got guys like this, backup quarterback.
Then say that.
In the
if
NFL,
Dame Lillard had come out and said, I don't want to expose myself, or I don't want to...
Backup quarterback for his whole entire career. Of course he's mad at Damian Lillard for not playing because his whole career, Dan just wanted to play, and he couldn't. So, of course he's mad at Dame. Now I get it. Now it all makes sense to me.
I don't want to expose potentially bringing this to my family. That's a different conversation. But all he's saying is, I don't want to play because I don't have a chance to win a championship. And like I said, you and Doris brought up great points. But then say that. If that's done...
Doesn't need to spell it out for you perfectly, Dan. The context is implied. oh, you're the only one who doesn't get it.
If that's Dame Lillard's reasoning, I'm 100% behind that. And I totally get that and respect that. But don't say, I'm not going to play strictly because I don't have the chance to win the trophy.
Let me give Doris the last word. Go ahead, Doris.
There are monumental challenges here for any sport that wants to return. The fact of the matter is Damian Lillard has lost somebody close to him in his immediate inner circle in the last month or so. He also has a young son. All of these professional athletes, like the rest of us, have family that we worry and are concerned about. These are monumental challenges. It is why I have said if there is a return for the NBA, let's go to the 16 teams. Let's establish some standard of safety that gives us the best or chance to minimize risk.
I mean, let's not just go to 16 teams. Let's have some sort of play-in. You know what I mean? Playing style tournament or something. You know, none. But everything else she's saying is spot on. You know what I mean? Like, she's done her research. She knows, you know, Dame has lost somebody close to him. She knows Dame has a son. She knows Dame's backstory. This football guy doesn't. You know what I mean? So that's why he's off on this tangent that makes absolutely no sense. But somebody who covers basketball, who has, you know, a background covering the NBA, knows what's up. And then I don't really know who this guy is. Maybe I probably recognize his name, but like, you don't even need to be an NBA analyst with a background covering the NBA in order to just understand basic context, which Dan seems to be missing, which is that we're in the middle of a pandemic. Of course, that's going to affect whether or not he wants to return and play meaningless games.
Because I do believe, Greeny, that like other businesses, people are getting hammered, sports leagues, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter. Life and death matters.
It's a very...
and that should be our primary concern here.
All right, well, I'm glad that Dan was the only one off on that tangent, and he wasn't having people agree with him. So that was just absolutely ridiculous. I wanted to react to that. I waited to watch it until I could sit down and record a video reacting to it. So let me know what you think about what Dan said. Let me know what you think of just media in general, because this is pretty much a typical hot take from an ESPN show. I think they're it's ESPN right there. Yeah, you know, that's ESPN for you. That's why I don't watch ESPN talk shows anymore. I used to love them as a kid. Used to watch them all the time, SportsCenter, all those shows. Now, just makes me cringe, man, because that take was cringe-worthy at best. That take was terrible. So, anyway, that wraps up this video. I'll catch you guys later. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.